as we welcome you to the webinar for the Academy for SEL in Schools overview, how and why to obtain a certificate in SEL instruction and/or SEL school leadership. Trish Heindel and I are the co-directors of the Academy, and we are going to spend a little time giving you some overview information, and then we will have more than enough time to answer any questions that you happen to have. So as I said, I'm Maurice Elias. I co-direct the Academy with Trish. I'm a professor of psychology at Rutgers and direct the Rutgers Social, Emotional, and Character Development Lab, where we've been doing work on social, emotional learning and character development for about 40 plus years.
So hello, everybody, and thank you so much for your interest and taking the time to join us today for this overview. So I am Trish Heindel. I am also a professor of psychology. I'm at St. Elizabeth University in Morristown, New Jersey. And I direct our Center for Human and Social Development. And for less than 40 years, but over a decade, we've been doing a lot of work out of the center, supporting schools to assess and address school climate, infuse social emotional learning across school communities and district-wide. So again, pleased to be here. And the two certificate programs that we offer out of the Academy are delivered in partnership between the two universities. So the certificate programs in social, emotional, and character development for educators began in spring of 2015, when Maurice and I completed work with a wonderful collaborative team of experts who have been doing this work for decades in schools, school leaders, curriculum developers, really thought leaders from the beginning of this work. So we really had all joined in together with this just grand purpose in our work, and that is to prepare educational professionals to help their schools become more positive places for children to learn, adults to teach, and all to thrive. And we all know and recognize that in order to have a place such as that, all of the adults in the school need to have strong social emotional skills, positive character, and be in a climate that is positive and welcoming and respectful of all and inclusive of all. So we launched the Academy recognizing that there was a gap in 2015 and still somewhat of a gap today. And that is that pre-service educators and pre-service school leaders were leaving their training programs without a focus or understanding of how to incorporate social emotional learning, character education, and assess, address, and improve school climate when they're coming out of their training programs. So we know that these skills are the important things that set the plate for students to be successful. So there are some highlights here of what you'll come away with from the certificate programs. There's a great deal of overlap, but the intention was to bring like-minded educators from across the globe, and it is international, together in a professional learning community. So there's a professional learning community that forms in the courses as you're going through them, but then we maintain a virtual learning community that people who have participated in the program can tap into, because we know that this work is hard. The context is always changing. So for sustainability, we really need to learn from one another, share with each other to do this challenging work. Our facilitators are mainly those people who I mentioned earlier who collaborated with us to create the curriculum. They have substantial experience and expertise in this work, and they're just fabulous supportive facilitators. We also wanted to create a program that was interactive, and so there is some asynchronous but also synchronous work. So it really has international reach. This is a out of date map it because it's changing all the time. We have many, many, many more global representatives than on this map to date. But the majority of states in the United States have sent participants through this program, and dozens of countries across the globe.
The certificate programs in both instruction and leadership are structured in a very similar way. And, we're recognizing that everybody who takes this certificate is already a professional educator, teacher, counselor, psychologist, school administrator. So we don't want to have to overdo this. And so basically, the first course in each sequence is a kind of a foundations course. It's to get everybody up to speed on what is the latest that we know about social, emotional, character development, and promoting a positive school climate. What's the research and what's the theory? Then the next course in the sequence focuses on best practices. How do we actually go about doing this? From the instruction certificate, it's how do we go about doing this in our classrooms or in our small group work with kids? In the leadership certificate, it's how do we do this on a larger basis, on a programmatic basis, on a school basis, even a district basis. What's really distinctive about the Academy is the 301 course, the third course. That is a virtual supervised practicum at your job site. So for about 16 or 17 weeks, you work with one of our instructors and your cohort in identifying a project, an issue that you want to address in your work site. And the resources of the Academy are mobilized to work with you and help you over that period of time. We don't expect that everybody's going to solve the problem in 16 or 17 weeks. Sometimes our schools just don't allow that. The Academy operated without a hitch during COVID, but of course we had to make a lot of adjustments. But the idea here is that it's essential to put this work into practice while you're a part of the Academy. And then, as Trish alluded to, once you get your certificate, you're still part of the Academy. We reach out with newsletters, we reach out with ongoing support and a virtual professional community to help you take what you've learned and actually put it into practice in your settings.
So out of St. Elizabeth University's side of the partnership, we deliver the leadership certificate in social emotional learning in schools and districts. And who should be participating in this program? We really define leadership quite broadly. So the people who have participated and been through this program range from people with leadership titles such as principals, vice principals, central office folk, but also we welcome, and the program is beneficial for teacher leaders, for small group leaders, for aspiring leaders. So we really broadly define leadership. So these are some of the things that you would leave understanding and knowing how to do when you complete the leadership level of the program. So one is being able to describe the interrelationship of social emotional skills, social emotional character development, and school culture and climate. The social emotional skills and character, as I said earlier, of the teachers, staff, administrators, and students in the building contribute to a positive climate in the school for all. And having a positive climate of trust and respect and inclusion enables everyone in that community to practice those skills and to show good character traits. Second, to know that you need to start with the well-being of the school leaders and the staff and your teachers. We know that one of the simplest forms of learning is modeling. We know students model the adults in their experience. And so it's very important for the focus to be on prioritizing, especially during what teachers and staff and administrators have been through in the last couple of years. There is more discussion and focus on adult well-being and teacher well-being right now, but that needs to be really a fundamental MO of the school leader, prioritizing the well-being of the adults. As a school leader in the program, we engage you in thinking about your own leadership style and leadership traits, and then connect those to what an SEL leadership style looks like. A distributed style, a democratic style, servant leadership are some of the models that are shared. Also, you will leave being very cognizant and aware that voice of all key stakeholders is critical. It's critical for you to build trust, to incorporate and engage and listen to the voice of students, staff, and parents. It's critical for buy-in for that to happen. And as a collaborative leader, it's fundamental to engage the voices of all in co-creating and implementing initiatives. You'll also leave knowing how and with tools to assess the alignment of your SEL, SECD strategies, implementation with what exists in your district and your school that are guiding the behavior of all the constituencies, core values of the school and district. What is your strategic plan calling for? How aligned are your policies and practices? How aligned is the discipline practice, for example, with your core values and your social, emotional, and character development goals? And then finally, for sustainability, know how to implement a systemic and coordinated SECD initiative and what that takes and what strategies help you to be able to achieve that. Next slide. So as Maurice described with that flow chart, there are 3 courses in the leadership certificate program as in the instruction side. The research and innovations in social emotional learning and positive school culture and climate is the foundational course that provides you with really communication skill in getting buy-in because of the emphasis on the evidence-based practice and what positive outcomes come from social emotional learning implementation. The second course is really the tools and strategies course that again, Maurice alluded to before. And then third, the practicum course, which allows you to then use the tools that you've learned in the strategies course, get buy-in using some of the strategies that you gained in the research and innovations course. And then the certificate of completion is awarded at the end of the practicum. But the practicum is really unique in our academy because of the support that you have with peers and the facilitator through that process. And as Maurice said earlier, we want this to be achievable. The practicum project is developed in the second course with feedback from that course facilitator and peers. And then again, you have support through the practicum course itself. So you can apply what's learned in the foundations course and you can use the tools that you've learned in the strategies for SEL leadership.
So of course, there's going to be a parallel process for the instruction certificate. And again, the rationale is very much the same, that we've all been involved, everyone in the academy has been involved in directly working in schools over many, many years, and we know what works. And one of the things that we know is important is what we call SEL 2.0, and that is combining social and emotional learning, this sort of standard CASEL skills, with integration of character development and school classroom culture and climate. We've come to understand that if we're not addressing, if you will, the heart as well as the mind, and if we're not focusing on the environment, whether it's the classroom, the group setting, the school itself, the learning that kids get is not going to stick. And also recognizing that for the foreseeable future, we're going to be dealing with environments in education that are a little bit stressed. We try to focus on adding SEL in, but not on to existing curriculum and instruction. We don't think that people are likely to get traction for SEL by making it a focus that adds to whatever everybody else is doing. The whole point of SEL really is that it makes instruction better. And so that's one of the things, particularly in the instruction certificate, that we focus on. How do we integrate SEL into what people are already doing? Now, again, because SEL is not new, we've got two different groups of people that go through the instruction certificate. One group of folks are fairly new to SEL. Maybe they've read a little bit about it, they've started to experience it, but they don't have a great deal of knowledge and experience with SEL. That's our general track program, and that's the 3-course sequence I described earlier. But we also have an accelerated track program, because out there, and perhaps one of you, have had at least 5, in some cases 10, in some cases 20 years of experience carrying out SEL in consistent and intentional ways. And again, it's not that you have to be doing something that is specifically labeled SEL, but it has to be something that represents what SEL represents, i.e. a skill-based, consistent, systematic approach to helping prepare kids for the tests of life. And so in the accelerated track program, the first 2 courses are collapsed into 1 course. And then there is the practicum course. So it's accelerated in the sense that we feel that there's already some familiarity with SEL, there's already some familiarity with best practices. We can move farther and faster in that, get people into the practicum, and get you on the way with your certificate. So the certificate program also tries to focus on what is most important that we've learned from the literature. And if this looks very familiar to you, I hope so. It's about positive interpersonal relationships with and among students, because there's no lasting learning without positive interpersonal relationships. It is, of course, about the CASEL SEL competencies, but it's also about key principles of character development, including the idea that classrooms or small groups should have core values, that people coming into a classroom or a group want to know, what is this all about? What does this group stand for? And so there's time spent in the instruction certificate course sequence in helping you understand and articulate core values. And of course, there's the application of SEL to social justice and equity, which is so crucial now. And then finally, explaining the connection between social emotional skills, character development, and how they relate to attaining academic standards and increased achievement. Because maybe that's the secret that some of us know, but a lot of folks don't. And that is that SEL is not in competition with academics. SEL instruction actually enhances academic achievement and success. And there's been quite a bit of research that has documented that. And so we also emphasize, I mentioned this before, but it's so crucial, the importance of establishing a positive culture and climate. And we want to have everyone going through the certificate program for instruction know the general pedagogy that underlies all specific SEL programs. So for example, whether you're doing I can problem solve, or second step, or open circle, or social decision making and problem solving, or paths, or whatever it is you're doing, Once an SEL program has become established, it's established because it has a common instructional pedagogy. For example, successful programs don't just teach skills, but label skills so that everybody else in the school building can activate those skills. Successful SEL programs don't just move forward, they spend a lot of time in review and understanding how the skills can be applied. So these are just two small examples of a general pedagogy that underlies all programs, and that's the pedagogy we want you to understand. So this way, wherever you're working, whatever SEL program they may be using, you hold the pedagogical keys to operating that program successfully. And of course, the supervised practicum setting helps solidify that for you and really helps you integrate the knowledge. And again, as we've said, you're part of a cohort that will continue to reinforce and support your learning and implementation after you've received the certificate.
So we're going to leave a lot of time for questions for you all, but we thought it would be helpful for you to hear from participants describing their own experience from the program that enable us to highlight their perspective on what their experience was and what they took away from the academy. So we're going to share with you a couple of examples of how they describe the benefits to them individually. So here's one person who said, well, I'll tell you honestly what I found to be the most interesting for me. It was a community. And we've talked about the support and the professional learning community that is fundamentally underpinning the academy for participants as they're moving through and beyond. So it's really wonderful that of all the things from the experience that this person wanted to pull out, it was underscoring the community. And it wasn't so much what I learned as much as the community of knowing that what I'm doing is correct. That's a precious comment because we work in silos way too often. And that's one of the things that the Academy is designed to break down so that you can know that you're doing the right thing by sharing with others and hearing what they're doing. There were all kinds of stuff about my administrative team that we could look at and assess as leaders and determine what areas of growth we need to have. There's some really good tools that I took right back to our leadership team for this department and put them into place. So another sort of fundamental value we have is practicality. We want you to be able to leave with tools that you can turnkey and use in your own place. Live chats were very important to me because while engaging in our own practices, we had the ability to reflect on and share these practices with others. This led to useful resources and powerful feedback. And another thing I didn't mention is we have a resource center too that's available to participants. That's curated by a wonderful former superintendent and facilitator who's also the president of NJACSD, New Jersey Association for Social, Emotional, and Character Development. Next one. The application piece was really important to me. I could take what I was learning in the course and then design curriculum around it, and then be sending it off and getting feedback from the instructor. Again, practicality, tools. I think it was valuable to me to learn about character development and how to integrate that within an SEL curriculum. Often schools have so many different programs and initiatives ongoing that really are interrelated and could be integrated better. And these are two of those. And we've been talking about many more. Your diversity, equity, inclusion work, your character development work, SEL work, climate work. Often these are the purviews of different groups of people, but they are interrelated at their heart. And then the SEL and Leadership Program has truly streamlined this entire project and granted me access to a myriad of resources to assist in this journey to create systemic change. The cohorts plus the knowledgeable and supportive instructors have created a collaborative space to share, advise, commiserate, and most importantly, to learn. My position in the district this person is in would not have been possible without this academy. And for this, I humbly thank you.
So on the instruction side, we have some things, and again, it's the italics that I think are the takeaways. To be able to immerse myself within the current context at that time, the idea that the classes provided rich conversations and opportunity to think through where I was with my own competence, where I needed to work. And of course, this is a comment that came through during the pandemic, that especially during this time, to be able to have an opportunity to reflect on one's own skills, as we've talked about before, and consider how I might need to change in response to meeting not only the needs of others, but myself. There is a sophistication to the way we go about doing this that we want to convey to you. Again, because of the academy training, I focus more on building relationships with students and to help them recognize and verbalize their feelings and manage them in positive ways. This is a key element in any classroom or small group. Because of the training I received from the academy, I'm now better able to practice positive thinking, meditate, engage in more self-care, eat better. Again, you know, it's as we think about what's supposed to be so good for others, you're in a community that's also going to encourage you to think about, well, it also could be good for you. And finally, the instructors all had a wealth of knowledge and experience. If I needed assistance, I would reach out to them as a mentor and would help with more resources, guidance, assistance, etc. So I think these are just two related points that this last comment brings out. The live chats are part of both of the course sequences, and they actually create the real connections between people. You get to know folks, and when you get to know folks, then when you call upon them, they respond to you. And that is, of course, true for the instructors. So it is not uncommon at all in either certificate program for the instructors to be called upon in between sessions, in between meetings, and then also upon certification as continued and ongoing resources. So these are just some of the things that our participants have shared with you. Now, before we go to the Q&A, I just want to, and of course, we're thanking you just for being here, but I just want to make sure that you're all seeing our website, because the selinschools.org website is the landing page for both certificate programs. And there you can see a lot more information to supplement what we've shared with you. But of course, there's nothing like getting your direct questions answered. And so I think we're going to move into that stage of things right now.